a lady who just is passionate. Talking about passion, passionate about her job. Cabinet Secretary, Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs, Sicily Kariuki. Welcome to Hot 96.
Thank you very much.
How are you today?
Great.
Do you always carry this smile everywhere?
It's very infectious.
I tried.
Because it was a bit dull in here. You can imagine sitting with Jeffrey at the whole time. Then you walk in with that beautiful smile.
Yes. You can't live with the youth and avoid it. It just comes.
Working with the youth makes you smile all the time.
Absolutely.
But it must be very challenging too, because today's youth are so switched on.
It's very, very challenging. They are not just switched on. They confess sometimes they're also very careless. They're too assuming. Half the time the energy just gets destructive.
Okay.
You know.
Yes.
Wow.
How's the campaign going?
From where I sit and the programs that I'm implementing and rolling out are going on very well.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's talk about your program. One of them being Huduma. Very successful in many parts.
Indeed.
A lot of people have been have made some very positive comments about it, but also in some parts has been very challenging.
Yes.
People can't get their IDs in time. People can't get their documents in time. What is it? How come it works in some places and not in others?
I actually think it works in other places. We have a uniform standard and norm that guides the way we operate in all the centers across the board. So half the time, if you have picked any complaint, which I hardly do because I am logged on and I'm able to monitor what's happening day-to-day basis, hardly anything to write home about.
So if someone wants to get on to a Huduma center and get some document, what do you supply other than ID and passport maybe? What else is available?
Everything else that is a service by the government. We have a menu of 66 government services within any one roof. It is the ID, birth certificate, passport processing. We have business services, including access to government procurement opportunities, startup, the process. We have affirmative funds, Uwezo Fund, Youth Fund, Women Fund, and you start the process of application right there.
Yeah.
So it's a whole menu.
Well, talking about procurement, Madam CS, there was this allocation and percentage that was given to the youth. Do you think the different ministries and the different government departments really lived to giving the youth the tenders?
I really think we did, or rather they did, because to date we have served upwards of 42 billion shillings worth of tenders to this category. That is in the last 2 years and a half. Remember, 2 years and a half, such a transformational program, and you're introducing it. Procurement officers are not used to anything like that. Preferential treatment when it comes to procurement. So obviously there were some challenges in terms of startup and even just that culture of why should we give preferential treatment to women and youth. But it's working. We can certainly do better, and I think that's where we're going.
42 billion
worth of tenders.
These have gone to the youth and the women.
Yes, and persons with disability.
And are they applying? Are they aware of it? People out there?
They're aware. At least a great majority of who I meet. The youth again have this thing of tumeambiwa ni ngumu sana, kwa hivyo mimi si kuanza. And they say it happily. And I say, so who told you ni ngumu sana? Ni fulani fulani. Did she or he go through the process? Apana.
Tenda ni ya wazee.
Apana. Na mimi nilikaa tu. That's they want it very easy. And obviously, the process itself requires some basic minimum. You have to have a company, for example. That's so there is a level of effort. You need to be able to actually also walk through the registration process. That's a level of effort. Some of the youth are like, no, hell, we want it here. Give it to us, you know. Yeah, kind of thing. But as we continue sensitizing them, we see the uptick is going to be improving. As we continue to also link them with the suppliers, as it were. In my own organization, I'm very deliberate about it. Remember, again, each one of us as ministers, you're required to ensure you meet the target of 30% going to this category. And it is part of my performance contract. The fact that I'm responsible for youth and women, gender issues, makes me extremely more sensitive, perhaps, than anyone else.
Now, talking about funds and everything, let's just talk about Uwezo Fund. Very few, some youths that maybe we interact with and talk with said, from the word go, Uwezo Fund was almost like a grant to the youth. only for them to meet some hurdles around it on how to go around it, and Uwezo Fund just stand to be one of those things that they cannot reach or get to. Did they apply? Did they receive it? Is it still there? And what's the process around it? Because up to now, 4 years later, they're still asking, where is Uwezo Fund?
Let me tell you, if you meet them again, tell them there are about 4 affirmative funds. Uwezo is only one of them. There is a Youth Enterprise Development Fund, there is a Women Enterprise Development Fund, there is a National Government Affirmative Fund. Now, Uwezo becomes very interesting because it smells or it's aligned to politics. Because if you recall, His Excellency the President Uhuru, when he was campaigning, then before he was the president, he said, should I be favored and I come in at 50+1 round 1, the money that government has put aside for a RELAN is what I'm going to convert into a fund. And this is how Uwezo came into being. Now, from that, somebody senses that it is a gift because we, in any case, we voted you in. Number one. Number two,
Yes.
the fund is patronized at the constituency level by the area member of parliament, mistake number 2. Because the minute you interact with the youth and women and PWDs, because this is a category again that benefits from Uwezo, the sense is that huyu ni mheshimiwa na sisi tulimuingiza kind of thing. So it becomes very difficult to tell them, look, it's not a grant. It is a loan that is interest free. And in my engagement with them, you realize in some areas they are doing very well. They are repaying, even to the extent of 70+, 75+ repayment rate, which is very good. In other places, we are doing 33, 35, 40. So hapa ndio tunawashika.
Kurudisha kabisa.
Kuna wale kama biashara walianza, without proper incubation, they're doing very badly. But if you compare that with the youth fund, which is a lot better structured, because you have to go through business sensitization, and effectively you hold your hand more closely. We are doing very well on that. If you look at Women Fund, which is, the principles are really the same, we are doing fantastically well. In some places, the repayment is 105%. Meaning the duration of time we give you to pay, you have turned your business and you've repaid and you've applied again. So doing very well.
So you here seated and saying that there are women and youth and people with disabilities who have really benefited from this affirmative funds.
Jalash, not 1, not 2, but into millions. Into millions. I interact with them every day, including this afternoon. Wow. Brilliant stories. You see, what happens is that, again, the media, perhaps you need to be a little bit innovative so that you can help us with moving some of these messages. When you speak to me and the minister responsible, somebody will think I'm doing politics, propaganda. This is what our friends keep on saying. Yet I'm saying I have a job to do, I have a good thing to sell. I must shout at the rooftop. Women's lives, youths, the lives have been transformed totally and completely. I hear these stories, it moves me quite a bit.
Speaking of stories, CS, give us some of the good news stories out there from people who have benefited from these funds. Tell us some of the good news stories.
I could be here the whole day if you choose to. If you choose to. But I encourage us, have the time.
Yes.
Allow us to come along, tag along with some of these people when you speak to us. Because then it's so real, life has changed. There's one young man, he's actually right here in Kibra. He's called Kamore. Kamore is a beneficiary of the Youth Fund. And, I'm sitting with him and he says, look, I can only say thank you to you and the government. I started as a hawker of shoes on some streets, Dati Kibra. Now, the young man is even driving a Probox or something like this. The young man is importing stuff from Dubai. The young man has ambition of being a politician going forward, at an MCA level, starting from a hawker. And these are stories I come across every other day. I go to Homa Bay and there's this lady, Millicent, and she stands there. She looks a little more confident than the ordinary people in, people in Homa Bay. And she says, I'm actually a millionaire. And I say, wow. I mean, really, after Form 4, Youth Fund, that she has stocked up her shop. The stock that she has is worth over $1 million. And she's selling. Huko mashinani, kule. So the stories are varied, very good, very encouraging. Yeah. On Thursday, I had a similar case again with a young man in Nyandarua. This one is benefited by getting the affirmative funds, but also getting the tender from government. So again, he's smiling all the way to the bank. And Kamora says, I'm not even done with the car alone. Look at my bank statement. I have 700,000 in the bank. You don't have that kind of money, Josh.
Do to you?
You don't have it in the bank just now.
That's why home
I don't have. I don't have.
You know,
Some reason I have.
so there are those who are go-getters, believe in the programs, can deal with a little bit of the pressure in terms of the processes, and they get out winners. There are those who attempt and give up halfway, and there are those who will not even attempt. That is the worst category now.
Wow, unbelievable.
And you know, in just to again reflect on statistics here, on the youth fund alone, we have served over 900,000 young people. 12 billion shillings is out with the youth through this facility alone. Yeah?
And there's a lot more available?
There's a lot more available because it's a revolving fund. It's a revolving fund. But what has been decided, and for good reasons, is that we, instead of having so many little funds here and there, youth fund, you could benefit if you're below the age of 35. But if you're a lady, you could also jump on the other side and benefit from the women fund. And so it becomes very difficult for me to be able to tell really whether we are reaching, our reach is improving in terms of scope and numbers. So it has been decided under the Jubilee Manifesto. What we are doing now is create one big basket called the Biashara Bank, you know, so that we bring all this together. One, it helps us in reducing the operational cost. Number two, in terms of governance, then we are able to actually know who is the beneficiary, because then it's just when. And then we are able to scale up these guys a lot better.
Yeah. Going digital, having an e-government, has that been a game changer?
Absolutely, yes. And you know, if you want to look at it just very basically from the Huduma Center ecosystem, we are in 41 counties today with 45 physical centers. By the end of this month, we will be in the remaining 6, at least 4 are complete now. We are just doing the final touches. What it means for us is that at the touch of a button, you are able to do 2 things. One, command the starting point of the service which you're looking for. And you're able to transmit the communication back to the back office, which normally would be the main ministry. For example, if you go for ID application, the officer who is sitting in the Huduma Center in Garissa today is able to transmit the communication of this applicant all the way to Nairobi, to the headquarters, and the process then gets started. But importantly as well is that you are able to rate me. As you sit there, we have a system. If you don't like the way I served you, if I delayed, if I was acting funny, you are able to actually go on queue and rate my service right there. And it's able to be moved to the CEO, you know, who then is able to relay the same to me if it's critical, and we'll move you off. But so that we avoid that, we have taken these teams who are running the Huduma centers through some very intensive customer care training. And it's been phenomenal. I mean, I speak to people every time I go to the field. I pass by the Huduma Center. What we have done as an innovation also is to move away from the physical space and created mobile Huduma centers, so that on market days we are able to go to the remote centers and people don't have to come to us, and we patch up in a tent and we are able to give exactly the same services we would give within the physical structure. And this again is phenomenal. Every single day we are able to serve between 35 to 45,000 Kenyans through the Huduma ecosystem alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's the Hot Breakfast with Jeff and Jalango.